From Calexico to Nunavut, from the Aleutian Islands to Newfoundland, and through Cheese Country, Wisconsin, home of the cheese curds. This is the Dynasty Pulse. We are your hosts, Biggs and Greinberg. Greinberg and Biggs. It should be a jingle. Biggs and Greinberg. Greinberg and Biggs.
Greinberg and Biggs.
We should record that. We got a great show today. We are talking the biggest Hoov. The Hoov, the 2024 NFL Draft. We got a special guest. You can see from the overlay. No surprise, it's going to be Hoov at HoovTube on the Twitter machine. And he's going to give you his best Ace Ventura LeHoozer impression. Let's say hello to Hoov. There you have it.
Hello. What's up, beautiful people? How are we doing?
We're doing great. How are you doing in the second best cheese location in all of America?
Them's are fighting words. Words around here, but I put my cheese against everyone else. There's a lot of people I'd put my cheese on line for. All right there, eh?
I know.
The cheese curds are top tier.
They are fantastic, and especially in poutine, but I will put the NorCal cheese scene up against everybody, maybe with the exception of the French. They might be the ones that are contenders, but we can have a cheese battle. All right.
Hey, hold on. We got some good cheese up here in Canada.
No, you don't. It's Canada. You got maple syrup, and that's it.
Oh, yeah. We got some Quebecois cheese up here from the French. So we are a derivative there. So we know our cheese making as well. So we are actually the inventor of the poutine and the classic cheese curd that goes on top of that. So don't be counting us out here either. So we should maybe create a poll too. Maybe we should create a poll for these folks and have like the best cheese. You know,
I mean, Wisconsin's going to win just because that's the steam, not the truth. It's the noise, not the signal. But nobody is taking anything away from Canada. Canada's whiskey is on point. Anyway, there are a couple things that I want. Has that ever been to Canada? Okay. There are a couple things I want to get off my chest. The first is I just want to tell people on Twitter, if somebody has an opinion, if somebody has a take, you look like a total ass when your response is, you don't know ball, okay? Because some of us have takes that are perfectly reasoned and they're analytically backed up. We don't just talk out of our ass. And maybe I'm a newbie, okay? And I've never been trolled before. I've never had a post go viral and had to sit there and drag through all of the bullshit comments that don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So just stop it. If you have an argument, present it. Don't just say, you're dumb. You don't know ball. That's stupid, okay? I'm not going to block anybody because I back up everything that I say, all right? That's it.
Good rant. I love it.
You think, therefore you know. All the information that I have right now, that's all information that's been given so far. That's what I know. But until someone presents something new, this is what I know. So I think, therefore I know. So just give people a break. Come on, guys. Everyone's trying here. Everyone's trying. Everyone's learning.
Yeah, Biggs, embrace it though, because that means you're, and it's not clickbait by all means. What you're referring to is something that you wholeheartedly believe and that you actually do in your drafts. So like you're putting your money where your mouth is. So don't. I mean, everybody's gonna have their own take, so yeah, take it with a grain of salt. I think it's funny, I think it's great, and I don't know if you listened to the Undrafted last week. Jax was talking to the exact situation where he just lets it run off his back right now, and he thinks it's hilarious. But you know what, when you first get into that situation where people are going off and you think like, yeah, you could take it to heart, but man, you worked your butt off to get where you are, and your takes are spot on a lot of the time. So Let's go.
The hardest part is the desire to address everything and just and backing away. Because I have to admit, there were a couple, probably 3 or 4 times where I started to type a rebuttal and then stopped myself, because the bottom line is it's my take, and it's not just a take, it's something that I did. The thing about it though was that, well, there's 2 things. Number one, I have a lot more empathy for Luke Sawhook now. Number two, what was really surprising to me is the fact that it has never happened to me before. I have tweeted about draft picks that I've made for a couple of years. I've done full draft reveals of every pick that I've taken. And for some reason, this one just hit people the wrong way. And I woke up this morning and I had so many notifications and like thousands and thousands of views. And I was like, oh, okay, what the hell just happened? And so I started scrolling through it, and I was like, okay, these people need to get a grip, because they are bent and they're wrong. So, it is what it is, and I can't wait for everything to play out. Speaking of that, and the last thing I'll get to before we get into the show, our partners over at the Undroppables have released the must-have document, the single most important rookie draft piece of 2024, and probably going forward as they update it every year. I'm talking about the Unscore. It came out today. It dropped today. You can get it.
The UN score.
Right, but it's the Undroppables. It's the Unscore. Go over to the Undroppables Patreon and sign up for the Patreon, and you get the 2024 release for free. You get all of it if you buy it on the Undroppables website, or you get a discount from the Patreon. It's the UN score. It's all of the 2024 rookie wide receivers. But there's also the historical context if you buy the whole thing, and it goes back to 2018. The only caveat is that undrafted wide receivers are not on there. I looked for UC Davis legend Keelan Doss. He doesn't come up with a UN score because he was not drafted. So it's drafted wide receivers. I already have gone through it, and it's affecting a draft that I'm currently in. I got somebody at huge value. The tweet that I was talking about previously, there are some splitting hairs differences between the wide receiver that I took and the wide receiver that I faded, which was the result of everything. But everybody else that knows ball, except for me, they're not totally wrong, and neither am I. And the Unscore backs it up. Okay, so again, that's all I'll say. But go get that Undroppables Patreon. You get the UN Score 2024 wide receivers for free for signing up, and I think it's $10 total at the Undroppables website if you're a Patreon for the whole thing, the comprehensive. Shout out to Dukes, FF Coder, Wiz, FF Coder, Travis Seal, Chalk, Jax Falcone. All you guys did a fantastic job on it, and it's a beautiful piece of work and an incredible analysis. And I'm happy and proud, and I know Mike is too, to be a part of the Undroppables group. So that's it.
Agreed, 100%. Now let's get Hoov. I know you've been itching to talk now, so what do you got for us? We got some losers on the slate today. Biggs, we were going to talk about the teams first, right? So what do you got for our teams?
Yeah.
So it was really hard.
What happened? Yeah, go ahead.
It was really hard for me when we were going through 5 teams that were losers for the draft. And I mean, being in the media room and representing women in fantasy and club fantasy, just seeing everyone's reactions and being a part of it and all, it was so cool. But just looking back on it, there were so many drafts that I genuinely really enjoyed from so many franchises. It was hard to find 5, but I did find 5. I don't know if I have them in a distinct order, but here are 5 that I think that they definitely could have improved and definitely tried it a different way. I would have definitely targeted a few positions earlier than some of these.
Let's just go one by one and just and state it, and then give us some justification for why you feel that way. And we'll also pipe in with consensus if we agree with them on our list.
Yeah, there's only 32 teams in the league, so I'm sure there's some repeaters.
What fan bases are you guys from? I should ask before I start going fully in.
No, go blind, baby. It doesn't matter. No, I'm a Raiders fan.
Yeah, and I'm a Chiefs fan, and you'll be able to find all our Raiders and Chiefs stuff on the Undroppables network, because we actually represent our teams for the network on the Uncovered series. So I represent Chiefs on Chiefs Uncovered, and Biggs is the Raiders Uncovered, Raiders Unrivaled. So yeah,
Mike's even got the Riddick Bowe jersey behind him.
Well, I'm glad that I crossed off one of these from my list. Oh, Dwayne, my dad's a huge Chiefs fan. I got plenty of Chiefs gear out in the living room right now on behalf of my dad. So
yeah,
but I will tell you,
don't cross anybody off your list.
I crossed off one beforehand, but I replaced it because I was just like, it was a tie between 5 and 6. I decided I was going to go with this one instead. But number 5, I had the Dolphins. It was hard for me to put the Dolphins on here because I genuinely really enjoyed how they started it, but the way that they finished it was really where I put them in this tier because it was so hard to find certain franchises that were like a loser. I really liked Chop Robinson. I really liked Jalen Wright. I really liked a lot of these picks, but when you started looking at the later draft picks, 2 wide receivers, we knew that with Vic Fangio leaving the Dolphins defense that there was going to be so many holes that they were going to need to fill. And I just didn't think that more offensive weapons was something that they needed. It just sounded like a Mike McDaniel, like clusterfuck kind of situation where he just wants all these players and he wants to just play with them all. He wants all the toys in his room. So I had the Dolphins on there. It was hard to put on there because I really like some of the early rounders, but the way that they finished it off, I had to find a spot for them.
I'm going to agree with you, but I really did like the Jalen Wright pick.
Me too.
Basically, you're looking at. Okay, now I say I like the Jalen Wright pick. Viewers of the show know that I'm not a Jalen Wright truther. He's got a lot to prove as far as like vision and being able to run the ball against an actual defense. But the reason I like it is because he fits the Dolphins' style. He can be coached up to do what he needs to do, and in a zone read, you don't have to do a whole lot of like hole hopping. You just basically have to go where the offensive line takes you. And I think that at a minimum level, Jalen Wright can do that. The thing that I like about it the most is that his speed fits the profile, and you've got an aged Raheem Mostert and a small Devin Achane who you can't predict injuries, but if you're gonna, he's the prototypical, that guy's going to get hurt running back. And so I think that Jalen Wright will have an opportunity quicker than most of the other running backs to actually like find himself, oh shit, I'm starting.
I do like
I'll
that.
Say this isn't.
They moved up for that pick too as well. So Mike McDaniel was looking at Jalen Wright, so that is something that he was he really wanted him. I think he's going to make a good position there, but I do agree with you. They didn't have the strongest draft. I think picking a running back where they did, they didn't need to make that pick. It's more of a luxury pick in my opinion. I think Jalen Wright's going to make a really good fit in that offense, but there were some holes in that defense that needed to be filled, and I think they could have used them in that position, in my opinion.
Yeah, I also like Kamara. I think Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder were really big on Kamara coming into the draft. I watched Bootleg Football a lot just because they do the deep dives into like the non-skill position players and tend to know what they're talking about. I also do like Malik and Taj Washington, the Washington brothers. I think they do add some depth to that Miami team, especially with their profiles. Malik Washington has been a fantasy space darling for a while. And Taj Washington, he wasn't great at USC, but he wasn't terrible either. He's the equivalent of Brendan Rice, basically, and both of them were definitely like later round picks. So I don't hate it, but I do agree. I do agree. Miami could have done a little bit more to like kind of to short. I mean, we just got Christian Wilkins. They could have done something better to replace him. So you were.
I will say this isn't the only time we're going to be talking about the Dolphins throughout the show. So
sure,
we'll be circling back on it throughout it, but. Number 4, we'll move on to the next one. It was hard, but I have the Giants. I have the Giants on here. I loved, obviously, the first round Malik Neighbors pick, but there wasn't enough. You saw the Eagles. The Eagles in their division, they crushed the draft. The Commanders, there were so many picks in that one. I love the Commanders draft. And even the Cowboys, we'll talk about them in a little bit. But there's so many. The way that this division is going, it seems like the Giants once again are the team left behind, and they're going to be waiting for next year. But I kind of wanted to take the opportunity too that if we're going to talk about it, we should talk about. Everyone's doubting Malik Neighbors now, and I see him starting to possibly dip in ADP, and people are passing on him forget it. Because if you guys actually believe that he is the second coming of Jamar Chase, then you are not going to worry about it because you just all started Jamar Chase when Jake Browning was in there and you didn't care. So you're not, because Daniel Jones is so much better than Jake Browning, and you're going to start Malik Neighbors. Yeah, you're going to draft him. It's all good.
NorCal legend Jake Browning. Shout out Folsom.
You're not going to have any issues convincing Malik Neighbors on us. We've got him pegged really highly. I'm speaking on behalf of both of us, Biggs, but especially the way I actually really like this landing spot for him, to be honest. I think the Giants is going to play. If there's any landing spot out of the top 3 guys that the Giants were going to be a good spot for, I think Malik Neighbors is that guy. He's going to get the yak yards. He makes plays out of nothing, and he's going to be targeted like crazy. Like, what else did they got in that offense? They didn't go out and get a high quality running back either. Biggs has got something to say on that.
Do not disparage my Wan'Dale Robinson shares.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm
kidding. Disparage away.
I'm expecting an okay season from Wan'Dale, but what do we have? I was disappointed that they didn't go out and get a decent running back. Tyrone Tracy, yes, he showed some flashes, but they had more capital than that, and I thought they were going to get a running back as well. I thought that would have been a good accompaniment to that team. But Malik Neighbors there, I think, is going to be a smash play. He could. I think that where his issue is going to be is getting the touchdowns. They're not going to be in a whole lot of touchdown situations, so they're going to rely on him being a PPR monster. He's going to gain those, and he's going to have to fight for those touchdowns, which I think may come down the line with a better supporting cast. Hopefully, they can make that around him.
I just can't believe they didn't even go after a younger quarterback either. Jordan Travis is across.
Yes.
With the Jets now. Spencer Rattler, he easily could have been there. He's with the Saints. He slid so many opportunities that they could have gotten a guy, and they didn't. So,
and through the evaluation, they likely didn't like Rattler or Travis more than Daniel Jones. And in fantasy, for fantasy purposes, as long as Daniel Jones has a healthy season, he should be okay in Superflex leagues. The problem is that they didn't address their offensive line. Now, Tyrone Tracy is he's one of the biggest draft winners because there's no reason he should have earned the draft capital he did, not with his age, not with his lack of production. He's a great story. He just, there's not a whole lot to like about him. But the fact that he only has Devin Singletary in front of him is going to be a big boon for him. But Daniel Jones is going to target the crap out of Malik Neighbors. You've got Gabe Davis 2.0 and Jalen Hyatt, who's just going to run wind sprints all day, open up the defense for Malik to work around, and like Granberg said, be the yak god that he is. And then his only other competition for targets is going to be Sterling Shepard maybe and Wan'Dale Robinson. There's not a whole lot to like on that team, and they didn't address the offensive line to protect Daniel Jones. We saw last year that was one of the reasons that Daniel Jones didn't last the whole season, was because that the defensive line was in his face constantly, and they didn't do anything to make that better. So New York Giants, losers.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes.
There it is.
Well, he nailed it. All right, Hoov.
Number 3. Oh, okay, here we go. Let's get it. I'm going to get a drink out of the way before we start it.
I already know who it is. And Biggs is already, his cheeks are already.
The Raiders at number 3. And you know, this one, I'm surprised I had to put it on here because after day 1, I thought this one was gonna for sure be on there. After day 2, really loved the Raiders draft, and I felt like I was seeing something. The fact that they got JPJ in the second round, and that they pretty much got 2 first-rounders, I really loved. At looking back on day 2 with the Brock Bowers JPJ, that I really liked how it started. But then afterwards, it just really crumbled after that. I felt like they really didn't address much. That with the Raiders, the only reason why you have to put them on here is that they're the team standing left behind once again without a quarterback. You can believe in Gardner Minshew, you can believe in Aiden O'Connell, but when you got Jim Harbaugh absolutely nailing the draft. I loved the Chargers draft.
Yeah, it was good.
I loved the Chiefs. There were certain picks that I felt like they really nailed, and then there were some things I felt like they could have done better. That's why they almost made this list. But mid. Mid is a better term for it.
I think they nailed their first 2 picks, which they needed big time there. Like they needed to fill that, and that's like, and they're deep at, like, they got a good corner. They got some safety help. I think I'm pretty happy with their draft, honestly.
So even if it's mid or better than mid,
you're
looking at the Raiders. You got Antonio Pierce, you got Jim Harbaugh, you got Sean Payton getting a quarterback. I don't know how you guys feel about the Broncos draft, but
we'll get there.
It wasn't bad enough to put it on here, in my opinion. I felt like they were at least starting what they had. That was the best they probably were going to do, so I can't really knock them for that. But the Raiders, I felt like there were so many options that they could have really knocked this out of the park, and they left something on the field. So Raiders at 3. Biggs, I got to hear from you. What do you think?
Allow me to retort. Okay, just like you said, first 2 rounds, picture perfect. They got Brock Bowers, like, better than like he just fell into their laps. Adding a dynamic offensive weapon to a quarterback room that isn't. You use the word belief. There's a lot of gray area in that belief. Do I think that Aiden O'Connell is the best quarterback in the room right now? Yes. Do I think that the history of the Super Bowl champions is littered with game managers that could do just enough to carry them to a championship? And is Aiden O'Connell in that area? Yes. He was a rookie last year. He can cut down on some mistakes, had a better interception per completion ratio than Gardner Minshew did. He's got a good deep ball. That there are things to like about Aiden O'Connell, and if he can progress and mature as in his year 26 season, he should be okay. He's got some dynamic weapons in front of him. They needed to address the offensive line, and JPJ is an absolute beast. One of my favorite picks in the entire draft, not just because I'm a Raider fan. He was like projected as a first rounder. They got him with the 44th pick in the second round. He dropped at least 10 spots on the big board. And my compadre over at Raiders Unrivaled is an Oregon fan and watched him and was just like, oh my God, you don't understand. As far as the rest, they needed to have a good backup linebacker and somebody to replace Divine Diablo when he leaves. And Tommy Eichenberg is a coach's player. Like, he will run through a brick wall for his coach. He's going to be like, if he's starting as the middle linebacker, run stopping linebacker, he's going to stack up tackles. So look for him in your IDPs, guys, if something ever happens to Robert Spillane. But especially coming from OSU and that not to helmet scout, but that tradition of linebacker, he is the prototypical downhill run stopping linebacker, and he's going to have a couple years to learn. And he was taken a little bit later. In the 3rd and 4th rounds, they got a high floor tackle in DJ Glaze, who adds depth to the line. And then they went out and they got a long 6'3", incredibly fast corner who it has some work to do, but he's going to be able to keep up with receivers, and he's going to be able to use his length. Plus, He's brilliant on special teams, and he's an attacking tackler, which they lost when Amik Robertson left. So they needed that guy to be on the field and run fits and be able to stop the run. The other guys that they got the Jim Thorpe award-winning safety in the 7th round. They got another high upside cornerback in the 7th round who was projected to go in the late 6th, I guess. So another draft faller. Essentially what they did was address a whole lot of depth issues, and to listen to Tom Telesco tell it, they just got everything as it came to them. And the DeCamarion Robinson pick, DeCamarion Robertson, I still have to get used to that name. He had a good first couple seasons at Ole Miss, and then there was a coaching change and he kind of fell off a little bit. So we're hoping that he can kind of get back to that. But the bottom line is, when they were in the draft room in the 4th round, they said, we need to address the speed on the defense right now. And he was one of the fastest cornerbacks in the draft. So they did that. None of that makes it a good draft or worthy of like jumping off of Hoov's list. Because we won't know for the next 3 to 5
years,
5 years how people are going to pan out. But it was funny that you pegged the Raiders, because I was sitting there going through an article before we got on. Greinberg and I were here in the studio, and I was like, I can't take any list seriously that includes the Raiders, and because my bias was showing through. Now,
but hold on. It was a C minus. Okay, I don't think it was a C minus draft. That was it. Like I don't think it was the best draft, just like our Chiefs, but it was a C minus. I don't think it deserves a C minus.
It was the lowest score in the list. He gave everybody else B's and A's.
Yeah.
Even the top 2 on this list, like I don't think that they had like a failed draft. Like, could they have done better? But yeah, like this was such a deep class that it was hard to get it wrong. But you definitely could have done it better. You know, you definitely could have addressed that speed of the defense by getting like Quinion Mitchell at 13 or something like that. Like, that's what I mean, is that they could have addressed it. They didn't have to kill Michael Mayer. We'll talk about that later.
Brock Bowers was right there. How do you pass on Brock Bowers? I mean, in any scenario, how do you pass on Brock Bowers? He's listed as a tight end, but his analytics line up with the top 4 wide receivers, and he's a tight end. They can play a 12 personnel, which Luke Getsy likes to do. I mean, it was a BPA that actually is a scheme fit. The guy is an absolute beast, and third down, 3rd and mid, get the ball in his hands, and he's going to make you a first down. That was a no-brainer pick to me, and I think the people who were confused about, well, why would you take a tight end when you already have another tight end? I think they were just kind of like talking themselves into that confusion when we all know the kind of guy that Brock Bowers is. And the fact that when he was a freshman at UGA and winning a championship, everybody went, this is like a top 5 guy. As a freshman, we knew that he was that good. And if it hadn't been for Atlanta, we wouldn't have gotten him. So I thank you, Atlanta, even though you're on my list.
Well, we'll talk about Atlanta in a little bit. We'll move on to number 2, though. And I got at number 2, I made a tweet today about this team, the Dallas Cowboys at number 2, Americans team. I put them at 2. I really actually, they did the right thing, but I don't know how much I actually loved the pieces that they ended up bringing in with what they did. Is that almost like you look back in the history of the Cowboys, is that trying to get as many pieces in building to assess the talent is how they ended up winning so many times in the 90s. That's what Jerry Jones liked to do. And that's what it almost felt like they were doing by trading back, was to try to just get as much help as possible and then get people in building. But they didn't really adjust the running back position like they needed to. They didn't do anything like splashy to justify this all-in comment out of Jerry Jones. So I feel like it just kind of left fans just very bleak, and all these players could be really good, but no matter what, you left your fans walking on the draft such a bad taste in their mouth, and that's just not a Jerry Jones thing to do. And so that's what justifies them on this list. Like, it's so un-Dallas Cowboys that
yep.
you have to put them on there.
Well, at least that was a quick one to get through, because I think Biggs, do you have the Cowboys on your list as well?
Absolutely. Unless Jerry Jones is a wizard and he zigged when we were all zagging. I don't know what they were thinking. The only thing they did well in the draft was address the defense. It was basically like they just went in and just had a defensive depth, and that was it, which is a traditional Dallas thing to do, but they had a glaring need at running back. And there's a certain loser on my list of rookies that I think would have been a great, great pick for Dallas, even at value in like the 3rd or 4th round. It would have definitely addressed their running back issue. And I mean, Zeke had a great second half last year, but are he and Rico Dowdle the answer? I don't think so. Jerry, you got to do better. Your fans are not happy with you.
All right, let's get through Hoov's last one for sure here. Let's do it.
The number one, I think it's easy to guess who is the number one. Someone that definitely left their fans with a bad taste in their mouth after this weekend, and it's the Atlanta Falcons. I got the Falcons on here at number one. I think that Lord Don't Lose, Lawrence Jackson, actually talked. I got to give a shout out, my boy. I think he talked me back out of it. I think that I might feel a little differently about this pick now, but the way that he's talking about it is that Michael Penix could actually be the day one starter in 2024, like with the timeline of Kirk Cousins. I will justify it staying on this list. I don't know if it justifies it being one after his post. I agree. I agree there is some truth to that. But they definitely deserve to be top 5 at this point, because it just puts such an uncertainty in your franchise on who's going to be the guy. Your fans don't know who's going to be the guy. Your peers don't know. And plus, it's just going to give a reason for when things to go awry to panic. And Raheem Morris has already had a losing record as a coach. So could he be out the door earlier because of this whole panic move? Could Kirk Cousins be out the door? Like, I don't like the move at all. Even some of the depth picks I could get behind, but even then, like, just the way that it started, I don't know how you're going to fix it at the end.
I'm going to get in here. I really like this Michael Penix move here. Honestly, I think it's setting up the franchise for the long term. He's going to be able to sit behind Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is going to be the starter, and he may not be the starter week 1 because he's still recovering from that injury. But this is a long-term plan. When you think of the last 4 draft picks that first-round draft picks that the Falcons have had now, you got Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and now Michael Penix. I mean, you're set up at offense for years to come. And I think that, if he sits and has a couple, he may have that red shirt year, he may not, but he's going to maybe start sometime. But I think Kirk Cousins is the short-term plan there, and then long-term is to develop Michael Penix. And I think Michael Penix there is the right pick for the franchise. I might be taking some heat on that, but I think he's the future. And I think they were able. When is the next time you think this team is going to be drafting in the top end of the first round when you look at that roster? And they're going to potentially be a number 1 team in that division for the foreseeable future, in my opinion. With the new offensive coordinator in Tampa, I'm not 100% sold on them. And I just think that Michael Penix in 2 years, 3 years from now can be a guy. He obviously is a bit older already, so he has some time to mature. So he's going to be starting in the league as a little bit older, and I think that might actually help him if he has to start out of the gate here. But this is the long-term fix for them, and I think it's a smart move on the franchise. Maybe people don't see it as that, but that was my take on the situation.
Age has a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
Is like one thing that Lawrence pointed out is that it's honestly, I don't hate the Michael Penix draft pick. I hate it because they gave Kirk Cousins so much money, and I almost like it gives Kirk Cousins' contract that's the hiccup. It's not Michael Penix getting drafted. Michael Penix is like, especially after that pro day and showed that he still had that athleticism after those injuries, like he should have been a top 10 pick. realistically. So especially with the young core that you have, you want to develop all those guys together. So I can get down with that. It's more I don't like because of the uncertainty with everything else, especially with that contract attached to Kirk Cousins.
Well, they know that they're going to bail on Kirk Cousins after 2 years, so Penix is going to carry a clipboard for 2 years, and then they're done. It doesn't make any sense for them to continue to pay him after that, and I think that's one of the reasons why they did that. But if we look at one of the corollaries to production in fantasy and in the NFL, age has a lot to do at the quarterback position, and Penix is one of the older guys in the draft. If you're gonna do something like that, why do that at the 8 and not wait on another guy who is a reason why the Jets are one of my winners and grab Jordan Travis? Jordan Travis was the PFF highest rated quarterback in college football in 2022. For whatever that's worth, whatever you think about PFF, through their grading system, he was the best. He went back to school, which may not have been a great idea, and then he got hurt his draft stock a little bit. But if I'm the Falcons GM, I'm addressing something else at the 8. They're I don't know, Brock Bowers. Put Brock Bowers and Kyle Pitts on the field at the same time. What the hell is the defense going to do with Drake London out there, right? That may be dumb, but it goes to my point. You can do something to address the team better now if you're going to be waiting. The top 10 is not for let's kick the can 2 years down the road. It's for let's get an impact player this year and put him on the field game 1 and have him be a game changer. That was the problem that I had with the Raiders draft last year when they took Tyree Wilson, who was obviously a project, at number 7, when Jalen Carter was going to be able to step in and be disruptive from day 1 on the defensive line. You don't make those decisions, and that's what the Falcons did, and that's why they're a loser. The who? Zaher. Well, now I did want to her. I did want to chime in on 2 of the teams that I had that were not on Hoov's list. The first is the San Francisco 49ers. The reason that I say that, overall, I really liked their draft. If they had flipped the Jake Cowing and Ricky Pearsall picks, they would have knocked it out of the park. The fact that they took Pearsall so high doesn't sit right with me, and it was like, what is wrong with your evaluation team? And then the other one was Denver. I don't think that Bo Nix is going to be the answer long-term in Denver. I think he's going to wind up being another guy that they had in the building already, Zach Wilson. I've talked many times on the show about how giving a guy 4 or 5 years to develop as a quarterback when they are, quote, a first-round bust is a really good strategy. And I'm not saying that Zach Wilson has ever been good so far, but nobody ever said that Baker Mayfield was good before last year. So the other part of it is they could have done something else to kick the can down the road for a couple years. The draft class, the QB class next year is not great. So, tank again and then have your pick. You had a number 12 pick. When 6 quarterbacks, or 5 at the time, 5 quarterbacks have already gone off the board and you're sitting at 12, that's not the time to take a quarterback who should have been a second-round grade at best. So Denver gets a loser pick from me.
Yeah, I had Denver on my list too, and a couple that I had here that didn't make your list. I had the Cleveland Browns on my list. I mean, they didn't have a pick until I think it was the second round at number 54. I thought they needed to either fill a void at, running back, maybe where there, or wide receiver. There were some good wide receivers on the board still in that section. And then they ended up getting Jamari Thrash down the line. I just didn't like that, with where they were sitting. And then the other one for me was the Buffalo Bills. I just thought that, they helped a AFC rival quite a bit there, letting the Chiefs move up. And then Keon Coleman, I'm I'm not sold on him. We'll see what happens there. I think they could have used that pick with and picked a guy like Xavier Worthy. I think he would have fit in a little bit better in a Bills uniform, and I don't think the draft capital that they gained off of that really helped them all that much in the later rounds. So that was the two teams that I kind of weren't super high on their draft either.
I really didn't like the Cleveland pick more because of my hope for Jamari Thrash. Spoiler alert. Because I mean they did the same damn thing to David Bell, and what they're doing to ruin my receivers that I'm high on coming out and burying them is really starting to piss me off. Cleveland, stop it.
I don't know, man. I really like Jamari Thrash. He's got quick feet.
I do too.
I love
maybe
him.
the Elijah Moore experience is coming to a close. Who knows?
Well, I mean that's the thing. Yes, that's my point. He's buried at this point. So, perfect example. Okay, Dylan Law. He's going to come into Las Vegas as a third down back and a special teams player. They're messing around with the new kickoff rules, and they're going to see whether a wide receiver profile or a running back profile returning kicks is going to be better. But he does have kick return experience. They have a process of having guys start out as gunners, and if he can do that and show out, he's going to earn time on the field. What are the Browns going to do with Thrash? Are they going to put him on special teams too? His profile is better than that. He's buried on the depth chart, and he could have come in and like wowed people in camp and earned a job, but instead he's got Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy and David Bell, who's doesn't have great draft capital to contest him. Elijah Moore, it's a very, very crowded room, and he's going to, because they want guys to know football and be special teams players first, it's going to take him a while when he could have been an early breakout. That was all.
In a low passing volume offense too, to get you right. It's not him getting onto the roster that worries for me. I think his talent will get him there. I just think it's gonna, even when he gets there, what's the complete upside there? As the third wide receiver on the team, they don't pass a whole lot as far as their volume. They're a run first team, and I think they're going to continue that way. I don't have a whole lot of investment in Deshaun Watson and his capabilities, and I just think it's a bad situation for Thrash. I thought he had a lot of optimism for me headed in if the right landing spot was going to be there for him, but like Biggs has said, I just don't like the landing spot.
My Jerome Ford shares are happy.
Yeah,
no kidding.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
How about
go on there, Biggs.
How about some veterans? 5 veterans that you think, shit, they lost after this draft.
All right.
Start at 5.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
You guys have an intro or no? Intro or just go?
Just go.
All right. So at number 5, it was really hard for me to decide which one of these guys. They were both pretty much in the same tier. So I'll put both of them. I have James Conner and Devin Achane. I feel like they both took a dip in price after the draft. Really like Trey Benson. I really like Jalen Wright coming in. I feel like at least for James Conner's sake, you're seeing the way that the NFL is going. They're going to a split backfield, and James Conner, he's probably going to be more of that hour back, probably get more of the goal line work, and then Trey Benson will be more of the explosive back. And then even Devin Achane, like we were talking about it earlier and we were alluding to, Jalen Wright's got speed, and he's definitely got more size than Devin Achane. So I think it was Laquan that was talking about it. Jalen Wright actually becoming the RB1 over Devin Achane. I'm kind of feeling it. That there's speculation that Raheem Mostert could actually be traded to a team like the Cowboys, and there's just so many running backs in that backfield, and they're just aging, that I feel like Jalen Wright, the younger you are, the healthier you are, more time you're going to be on the field, and Jalen Wright could actually become the RB1 in Miami. So I feel like both Devin Achane and James Conner took a hit after the draft with these young guys coming in. So I'd still draft them. I wouldn't be too worried. Everyone's going to be more in on Trey Benson than they are on Jalen Wright. But I wouldn't be too worried about Jalen Wright. I still think he's worth that mid-second rounder that you guys are picking up in your rookie drafts right now. So I don't know if I'd go any higher than that, though.
Yeah, most of my losers from the players' side are running backs. So
I think all of mine, but one, absolutely. Okay, what else you got? I think that's pretty cut and dry there. I got James Conner on my list too.
I got a deeper running back, someone that I acquired him. I traded Roschon Johnson a few months back for the 206 and AJ Dillon, my number 4 overall pick. Done. Dunzo. Yep. Go play Farmville. You're done. Sit this one out. Marshawn Lloyd, you got Josh Jacobs now in there, and I forgot who pointed this out on Twitter. I wish I could give more credit where credit's due to some of these awesome accounts that I follow that just put out so many good points. It's just fun to root for Josh Jacobs, and I definitely am going to be buying my Josh Jacobs shares. And if he is done and it's his only year in Green Bay, I'll still take that price, and I will be disappointed with the rest of you because I don't see it. But there is an out to this Josh Jacobs contract with Green Bay, so I could see Marshawn Lloyd actually, if he eats enough of this share, I could see him eventually being a lot more valuable. I wouldn't really say that Josh Jacobs is a loser. AJ Dillon's a loser, but Lloyd is my RB2 in Green Bay, and AJ Dillon is done. So Josh Jacobs might get a little less of a share than everyone is thinking. So
Mike Greinberg's boy.
Yeah, you know what? And after the draft there, both my boys, Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd, but Marshawn Lloyd went up my board quite a bit, actually. I like that landing spot for him. And like you mentioned, I think he's going to develop into their first down kind of back. Now that I see the vision there, I see, this is a 1 year kind of deal for Jacobs, probably, depending if he can be successful. But I love Marshawn Lloyd as a pass catcher out of that backfield. He's going to see that work that, I thought that Jacobs was going to see. I thought he would get that extra pass catching work that Jordan Love likes to check down to his running backs. But now Marshawn Lloyd, I think, is going to come in immediately, take on a role this year. He's got the draft capital to do so now too. So I can see him coming in and, getting 35% of the snaps right out of the gate, coming in on third down. People are worried about his pass protection, but he did keep Caleb Williams upright quite a bit last year. So, he's more unproven than anything, in my opinion. And I think that Marshawn Lloyd is a guy that's going to really turn some heads when he gets into Green Bay. I love that young offense, and I think that's a really good move for the whole team. It sucks for AJ Dillon because I don't see him being anything more now than an injury replacement. But at the same time, I love that move for the Green Bay Packers. That team is looking really, really set up for the next long while, and I'm excited to see what goes on there in the future.
Let me just check my notes real quick. Josh Jacobs / AJ Dillon. All right. Josh Jacobs and AJ Dillon are both losers in this scenario. AJ Dillon because he's going to be usurped by the younger guy. Josh Jacobs because as a Josh Jacobs lover, he never really got a whole lot based on efficiency. It was based purely on volume. His volume is going to be cut into. We kind of had an inkling of that going to Green Bay, but it was confirmed during the draft when they got Marshawn Lloyd. One of the things that made Josh Jacobs special in 2022, on top of the sheer volume that he had as a ball carrier, was he started getting into the range of 50 to 60 targets every season. And if he's not going to see that, he is out of the top 10 in fantasy for me. Whether or not he would have been there, I have to check more. Go deeper. But Yeah, the fact that they're going to have a young, capable guy to come in on third downs when what made him great on the Raiders was the fact that he was a 3-down back that was occasionally spelled by Abdullah and the other guy, Brandon Bolden. He's losing that, and even if Marshawn Lloyd doesn't get that third down roll off the bat, they still have AJ Dillon. But Marshawn Lloyd is sitting there waiting in the wings, and he's the kind of guy that if something happens to Jacobs, he can take the job over and not look back. So
100%.
Le Hoosers
So,
in green.
Yeah. Le Hooser at number 3. I got from Indy, my guy, Alec Pierce.
Samesies.
Oh man, that is tough. I could talk about Adonai Mitchell. How good I think Adonai Mitchell is going to be at Indy for an hour. Okay, he is going to be so good. That deep threat ability with Anthony Richardson's arm. Oh, I'm going to be buying a lot of Adonai Mitchell. And especially with Shane Steichen just like drawing up plays. Oh, that's going to be dirty. So I feel like Alec Pierce is done. It hurts to say it. Alec Pierce, like, he's just not the same player that Adonai Mitchell is, and he kind of had that same like sideline deep ball like possession kind of game, and he'll be buried in that wide receiver room. But what a big turnaround for the Colts. Like, I remember a few years ago when they only had T.Y. Hilton and just nobody. Now they got dogs. They got Michael Pittman, Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs. Is it Josh Downs? Yeah. Wide receiver 3, and then Alec Pierce, dogs. So
Jelani Woods
to the Colts. Oh, okay.
Now
let's calm down. Let's calm down, Biggs.
Before you get too excited about A.D. Mitchell, I encourage you to go join the Undroppables Patreon and copy yourself the 2024 UN score. Yes, I had Alec Pierce too. I am heartbroken. I had such high hopes for him. With Anthony Richardson back and Anthony Richardson's 88-yard deep ball, Alec Pierce could totally take the top off the defense and just run under it. And we saw him do it during the summer last year, where AR was just chucking the ball down the field, and here comes Alec Pierce right up underneath it. He's got great ball tracking ability. He's got great hands. The only hope for him is when he and A.D. Mitchell are on the field at the same time, if he turns out to be a better ball tracker and his hands are better. Otherwise, with the draft capital that A.D. Mitchell has now, the job is his, and my Alec Pierce shares are dead. So Alec Pierce is absolutely a Luhu as a herb.
Yeah. So, all right. At number 2, I wouldn't necessarily say he's dead, but dying, aging. Kirk Cousins, Coach Haynes as my number 2. Like we alluded to it earlier, there's many possibilities on how fast Kirk Cousins' dynasty value could die. There's people that think that it could be this preseason, that he could just be brought in the building, and I'm not going to say the Matt Flynn situation by any means, but it could be a 1 year, it could be a 2 year, it could be that he's just done after this. And teams, they showed you like Russell Wilson last year. That's why I was a fan of Kyler Murray going to the Vikings and Arizona just taking a big salary cut cap. Is that teams just don't care if they have to take a salary cap, like a big salary cap hit, because it's what's best for their franchise. And it seems like the Falcons already kind of swallowed that pill. They know they're going to have to do that. They already just did that with Matt Ryan a few years ago, so it seems a little crazy to do. But if they think that that's what's best for their franchise, Kirk Cousins, sorry, man, you're the odd man out. And this team is getting younger. So Kirk, number 2. Sorry, man.
Watch the Falcons win the Super Bowl in 2025.
Yeah, no shit.
Then what do we do now?
Yeah.
All right, and your number 1? Because I don't disagree.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this one. Number 1, I got to go with the Raiders. Michael Mayer. Dead.
Yeah.
This one really hurt. Just because I was such a big fan of Michael Mayer, and the people that drafted Michael Mayer, you knew that they were giving up on Sam Laporta. They drafted Michael Mayer before they drafted Sam Laporta. And the fact that everyone that has a roster share of Michael Mayer probably knows deep down that was such a waste of a draft pick. I could have had arguably the dynasty tight end 1 right now in Sam Laporta, and I have Brock Bowers backup tight end. So, unfortunately, you probably know he's going to be used more as a blocking tight end, but still one hell of a player. I took a stab. I was going to send like a 2023 third and A.J. Dillon. I was going to try to see if I could get a share of Michael Mayer to see if maybe a team ends up trading for him. Maybe someone trades for him at the trade deadline because he's still a talented player. Someone could end up using him somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But right now, it's really hard to find value in Michael Mayer unless you're searching for it.
Unless you're the Raiders. And if you are the Raiders and you're looking at Michael Mayer, there were 2 tight ends who basically were the best tight ends of the last 4 or 5 years in college football. One of them is Brock Bowers, of course. The other is Michael Mayer. If you want to have a situation like Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, that's exactly what is happening with the Raiders. The only thing that could save Michael Mayer is if the Raiders become the Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski Patriots passing offense. The only thing. Michael Mayer is not going anywhere. He's staying in Las Vegas. He's still on his he's got 4 years left on his 5-year deal. They're going to pick up his option after year 4. Just the cost to keep him in the building, especially as he grows and learns the offense. We are in we've talked about 1,000 times before. It's a new era for tight ends. The days of a traditional tight end coming in and learning schemes and becoming an effective blocker, staying in line for 4 or 5 years before they start having their fantasy breakouts, those are minimized by the Sam Laportas, Dalton Kincaids, Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is going to be the guy that's going to be lining up in the slot. He's a big slot receiver, tight end and name only kind of thing, even though he does have the skills to block if they line him up in line. So and that's the problem with Michael Mayer. If it comes down to it, because of Brock Bowers' dog in him, his ability in the run game and his ability as an inline tight end, which he's shown that he can do, he's going to be on the field when they're not in 12 personnel. When they do have the 12 personnel on the field, that's when Michael Mayer is going to get in. So shout out to a friend of my show, Kenny King Jr., who said Michael Mayer was going to be the offensive breakout of the Raiders in 2024 a couple months ago. That is dead in the water. I'll hold on to Michael Mayer just in case, but I'm not counting on it.
You had me in the first half. You had me in the first half, not going to lie. You were talking about Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski.
Well, let's look at it.
Right,
okay,
I'm back in. That's all you had to say.
Let's rewind to.
I'm okay with it.
We need to rewind to last week when we had Andrew Cooper on, and he basically said what the yin and yang style is. What we're looking for when we find a tight end is targets and touchdowns. And touchdowns are not sticky. You want 90 targets and 10 touchdowns. Michael Mayer is not going to get to 10 touchdowns, not with the volume that he's going to have in a shared tight end situation, and he's not likely going to get to 90 targets. Brock Bowers may get to 90 targets. Michael Mayer's not going to, so he's no longer an option unless they do the New England Patriots thing, and those 2 guys are the focus of the offense. Which moving on to my top 5 Hoosers. We shared one, but I'll go through them really quick. The first one is Kyren Williams. Not a great look. Not a great look. Kyren Williams is going to have competition in the backfield, especially if he's not as good as everybody thinks he is. He's another volume-based running back. Number 2, Chuba Hubbard. Sorry, Chuba, but your performance in the second half last season and the fact that Jonathan Brooks is now right behind you, that's not good. Cole Turner, shares are dead. Sorry. Ben Sinnott in Washington is a really, really good situation. And then my last loser, Mr. Marquise Hollywood Brown. sorry, baby. Your deep threat days are over. And I might be leaning towards not owning Chiefs again in 2024. Chiefs wide receivers.
Yeah. And that's a fair assessment.
This is very similar to the Dolphins. Like, they're going for like 2-speed wide receivers. Like, throughout the league, either they're going for the Dolphins receiving core or you're going for like the Seahawks and you're trying to recreate that. Even the Jaguars right now, like, they got Tyler Lockett light and Christian Kirk. You got DK Metcalf light and Gabe Davis, and you got JSN light and Brian Thomas Jr. Even the Bears.
At least they got rid of Zay Jones today, so they kind of they scuttled scuttled that roadblock for BTJ to have a breakout. But it's a crowded room, and I'm not saying the Chiefs aren't going to be good. I'm not saying they're not going to repeat. I'm not saying that Patrick Mahomes isn't going to be a top 5 quarterback. I'm saying in fantasy, there's so many weapons. Who are you going to count on each week?
They're going to spread the ball around a lot, and they got 2 similar wide receivers now. Like, I mean, people profiled Xavier Worthy as a Marquise Brown clone, so I see your the way you compared it, and I think it's you hit the nail on the head there. I think Marquise Brown is a big fade too. With Rashee Rice potentially serving that suspension, he's going to be utilized this 1 year, and it's a 1-year deal for him. I think it's a good situation for both the Chiefs and Marquise Brown. He's going to be able to maybe put his name back on the map and maybe get a deal after this. That's worth a little bit more than what he's got, but I think it's going to be a tough sledding, picking on what Chief wide receiver to pick every week in fantasy. I think that's a very good, forethought. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens there.
And also rip Sky Moore.
Yeah, totally. Get him right out of here. Totally. Now, for me, I had everybody that you guys had. I think I added Raheem Mostert to that mix, just very similar to your Devontae Chan situation. Jalen Wright there going there is big. I think that we need to dig a little bit deeper in the Kyren Williams situation, Biggs, because Blake Corum going there, I think is really bad news for Kyren Williams. Blake Corum was one of the most productive running backs in all of college football. He's coming in with way more draft capital than Kyren Williams has. We know that an injury away and Blake Corum could jump in there and become the Rams' number 1 running back. So when we look at that in a dynasty scope, and people were talking about holding on to Kyren this offseason, and people like us were talking about selling him because of that draft capital, now it's coming to fruition. I still like Kyren Williams this year. I think he's going to get the lion's share to start, but if one thing goes wrong, there's nothing stopping him from pounding the rock with Blake Corum up the middle, and he's a type of back that Sean McVay likes. Day 2 draft capital is huge, and you can't ignore that, So I think Kyren Williams is a big fade right now, and if you can get rid of him out of your lineups and dynasties, and you can still get like a 1st-round draft pick for him, go ahead and do that. I'm not sure what you guys thinking about that.
Well,
I think this is Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah.
God, I hated that pick too. One thing about Kyren Williams is he didn't exhibit a whole lot of athleticism, and all it's going to take is Blake Corum, as limited as he is, showing increased athleticism over Kyren Williams for the Rams to go, wait a minute, maybe this guy can do more and deserves more of a share. Keep in mind, dear viewer, that not a lot of this stuff is going to come to fruition in the first 4 weeks of the season or the first half of the season. And we're talking dynasty. We're talking about long-term stuff. But the whole running back scene is just littered. Like, look at Javonte Williams in Denver. They just went up and drafted Audric Estime, who's essentially Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams has been hurt quite a bit. What happens if he goes out and Audric Estime takes over and shows that he's a 4-yard per carry guy, like pounding the rock? Like, it's not a great situation for most running backs across the league.
Yeah, it was a tough week for veteran running backs in the league, and it was actually a tough week for some of these rookies as well, running backs in the league. And I'm sure there's a bunch of them on our list for Hoov's, Zahers. And let's get into yours, Hoov. What do you got as your number one guy, or your top five there? As
I'll run through them. There, like these are pretty fast five. At number 5, I was really big on this person preseason. I really thought that he was going to end up getting a lot more draft capital than he ended up actually getting undrafted. Dallin Holker. I really like Dallin Holker out of North Dakota. And he is now
Colorado State.
Just a guy. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Colorado State. Yes. Just buried in the Saints tight end room. And that's just tragic because like there's so much that I thought he could do to an offense. I felt like he was an awesome receiving weapon, but I guess that blocking he just didn't have on his tape just really kind of came through, and he wasn't able to earn that. So RIP Dallin Holker, that hurts. Maybe, in a few years he could earn his way through, but you know how the Saints tight end room is. It's so hard to become a man there. You got Juwan Johnson. I mean, is Jimmy Graham still there, or did he retire finally? Taysom Hill's there, but he could be quarterback at any moment. So just so many guys. Dallin Holker at 5. Number 4. I really like Jalen McMillan, but him being behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay, it's wide receiver 3. There's room for improvement, but immediate impact, I don't know how valuable he'll be. So there's just so many wide receivers that they will make an immediate impact. So Jalen McMillan, don't love that pick as much as others. 3, someone that at IBT we were giving a lot of credit, former Wisconsin Badger, but Isaac Guerrero. Now with my 49ers, right behind Christian McCaffrey, you got Elijah Mitchell, you got so many guys, but it's still the CMC show. So it's going to be hard for him to find any time besides like 1 or 2, maybe kind of scheme something up for him, but hard for him to find any reps to make him fantasy valuable. Number 2, I like it. We talked about it earlier, but still you got to put him on the list. Michael Penix Jr. Definitely could have went somewhere that he earned at least. I drafted him at 110 because I was being bold, and I thought he would end up going to somewhere like if the Patriots traded down and that situation unfolded, he could have earned like a 110. But now like it's hard for anyone to draft him outside of the 205, or 205 or later, just with like the immediate impact that you're going to get from some guys. Some people might be bigger fans of Michael Penix and draft him higher, but I don't know. Just knowing like how good some of these wide receivers and running backs are going to be, it's hard to get the impact of Michael Penix and pass on that. And then
he would have been the Raiders starter if he had lasted till 13.
Right. So that was in that 110, but right now, like I don't know. I can't pass on. I know you said you're not big on AD Mitchell, but I can't pass AD Mitchell for Michael Penix right now.
The thing about now, but Michael Penix and Jordan Travis not starting, quarterbacks hold their value a lot longer in Dynasty, so they're gonna, if they're in the late second round or in the third round, go ahead and take them and like taxi squad them, sit on them for a while. They're eventually gonna bring you back more than what you paid for them. But as far as like immediate contributors, obviously not. In that same vein, I think Jalen McMillan is actually going to benefit. I think he's going to come in. He played a lot of slot at University of Washington, a lot more than he did on the outside. And Chris Godwin only plays slot about a third of the time. So now they can have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin playing on the outside and have Jalen McMillan in the slot. There are other wide receivers in that Tampa Bay wide receiver room that are hurt a little bit more by Jalen McMillan coming in. Jalen McMillan is highly underrated. He's definitely better than his draft capital. And I really, when Tampa Bay took him, I was like, oh, that's good. He's going to be like my third round smash in every rookie draft. And I have high hopes for him. The other guy that I have a difference of opinion on with you, I have a different loser in the 49ers room, and we'll talk about that. But I actually think Isaac Guerrero as a taxi squad stash is absolutely perfect with his athletic profile for somebody to come in and learn the Christian McCaffrey playbook and earn his job. He's in an ideal situation to get coached up and have like a second year breakout if something happens to McCaffrey or if McCaffrey moves on later on or whatever.
Depending on ADP, you might talk me into that.
Sure. Who is your number one?
And then I made a post about it today. You commented on it. Number one, a Wisconsin Badger. At one point I had him as the RB1 in this class. He's damn sure not the RB1 right now. Braylon Allen. Now the RB2 right behind Breece Hall. Man, that sucks. There's value. I guess there's value. Injury is not good for fruition, but we never root for those. So he's dead. It's hard to have value outside of a handicap. We don't want to root for anything bad for Breece Hall.
No,
Dalvin Cook right? Even Dalvin, right? We don't root for this stuff. So even last year with Dalvin Cook or like Abanaconda, I loved Abanaconda last year, and just knowing that Breece Hall already had that preseason injury going into the season, I was drafting Abanaconda, but the fact that Breece Hall was earlier in his recovery, Abanaconda's value died, and I see the same thing with Braylon Allen. So it sucks, but I hated this. Like, this didn't have to happen. The Giants should have taken a stab on Braylon Allen right here, and they wouldn't have been on my top 5 teams earlier.
Right. He's who I was alluding to when I was talking about the Cowboys. Braylon Allen is a guy that I also was flying the flag of RB1. His profile is so perfect for 2-down smash goal line guy. He could have been something in the NFL if he had gone to Dallas or the New York Giants. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Both of those teams, which wound up on the 5 loser teams, missed because they needed Braylon Allen and they didn't take him. Braylon Allen getting stuck behind Breece Hall, who's a generational running back. What's he going to do? He's not going to take over the third down reps. They're not going to move Breece Hall to a third down guy behind Braylon Allen running for 2 downs. He's just stuck. And I think of all of the players I was tracking through the draft, Braylon Allen was the single biggest loser. And it breaks my heart because I loved him so much.
The more I sacked Braylon Allen, it was just hard for me to overcome his hiccups because this running back class didn't wow me, and the fact that he couldn't stand out as RB1 with what he did show, that was my big thing. You're blocking. If you can't block, you're not going to be on the field, and he struggles with that sometimes. He's a power runner, but man, there's some. I understand why he didn't get an opportunity. It sucks because maybe he could have on-field reps developed and been better. Maybe this was the year that he could have done it with a Devin Singletary, to beat out, but it still sucks.
And what are they going to do? Is he going to prove himself on special teams? Are they going to run him out in punt coverage? Is he going to be on the kickoff team? How do you get an absolute 235-pound bowling ball? The fact that he's been working with Derrick Henry, the fact that he's the size that he is, the fact that he had such an early breakout, the fact that he's one of the youngest, if not the youngest running back in the class, all of those things profile-wise point to him as the guy to own. But draft capital just came in and just completely shit on everything. And that's why I'm so heartbroken because, the potential that was there because of what we know about history in the NFL and what running backs can do with specific traits, he was that guy. But he wasn't Trey Benson or Jonathan Brooks or these guys who are a little bit smaller, which somehow the NFL is kind of moving. That I think that's the big takeaway, is that the NFL is moving towards smaller guys. They're not looking at the same analytics as people who are trying to track fantasy points historically, right? So, like you said about the entire class, there were flags for me. Like every time somebody would come out with their new rookie running back rankings pre-draft, I'd just be like, I don't even know like where to put people. There are certain profiles that I have consistently looked at, and box rating and things like that. And Braylon Allen was fine, but he went from RB1, kept sliding down everybody's boards. Now they're putting in Jonathan Brooks, who's coming off of injury. They're putting in other guys who like aren't efficient in certain analytics. It was just like a hodgepodge. Just everything was all over the place. There was no clear-cut winner. So all we can do is look at draft capital and find the clear-cut losers. I have a couple more. Ricky Pearsall is a loser.
Really?
Draft capital wise, everything looks shiny. The problem is he's going to an established 49ers team. He's either blocked by Ayuk and Debo, Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. All of those guys are quality pass catchers. The reason that he's a loser is because they also went and they drafted Jake Cowing, who's a much better wide receiver than Ricky Pearsall is. And whatever reps were going to come Pearsall's way, Cowing is going to steal from him as soon as the two get on the field together. So if they hadn't taken Cowing, he might have been okay long term, but it's just that's another like seriously crowded room. Same with Jamari Thrash.
If they trade one, do you feel the same?
If they trade one out, it might be a little bit better. But the fact is that they were able to survive with Ayuk and Debo before, but Kittle and Christian McCaffrey sapped a lot of the energy out of those two guys. If it hadn't been for Kittle and McCaffrey, Ayuk and Debo would have been even better than their like top 15 and top 20 finishes in fantasy. So it's just there's so many weapons on that team. Same with Jamari Thrash in Cleveland. It's going to be hard for him to earn anything. Brian Thomas Jr. I had on my list until they released Zay Jones. It looks like he might be okay, as long as they can kind of like get him some open looks. If he can like get himself open and develop a rapport with Trevor Lawrence, he should be okay. But right off the jump, like I really hated that landing spot for him. And then finally, my last running back, I think that Trey Benson was a loser in this draft simply because James Conner is there. I know that James Conner is old. Long term and with injury, Trey Benson should be okay. Your Amari DiMercado shares are dead. But I thought that Trey Benson was good enough to go to a team that needed a starting running back and be legit right off the bat, and earn that RB1 position out of camp. He's not going to do that in Arizona. He's going to have to wait until there's an injury or wait at least another year for James Conner to leave. And I didn't like that landing spot either. I feel so good. That was so good, Hoov.
Yeah, we got through it. That was a good episode. We talked about all the losers. But I'm much better winner analyzer, but right now these seem like some clear-cut losers. We're probably going to be wrong, because like we alluded to, we don't know ball. We're going
to be wrong and we're going to be right.
That's right. So
I mean, we had a lot of agreements and we had some disagreements, and none of it, like we didn't even fight. No punches were thrown, so that's a good thing.
It's all love, baby.
And the disagreements weren't even that hard. Like there were some biased disagreements on my part because I look through things with a different lens as a Raiders fan. But But objectively, I think we're all winners, aren't we?
I think we're the winners. We're finally back. We can stop talking about crap that doesn't matter on Twitter, like your favorite color and everything. We can start talking about rankings. We can start talking about favorite sleepers. We can start looking for Scott Fishbowl invites. We can start buying tickets to Draft Night Out. We can start buying tickets to the Expo. We're back, baby. We can put it all. The off season's done. The off season's done.
My favorite color is yellow.
Started, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, Scott Fishbowl. Did you get your invite?
I did not yet. I'm
You're
crossing
waiting,
my fingers. Maybe I just have to go to the aquarium and just go hang out with Scott's relatives for a day and just put in a good word, something.
Or you could pledge to go to the Michigan live draft because I know that they're looking for people to fill that out.
Madison, Wisconsin. I'm trying to get in. I want to draft with my boy Jake Trowbridge. And
I get it. But if it comes down to needing a spot and they still have something in Michigan and you emailed Fantasy Cares and was like, hey, I want to go to Michigan, they'd put you in Michigan.
Is it in Detroit?
That's a great question. I'm not the one to ask.
Because I was just there. So maybe I have to run it back. Who knows?
Well, being from California, I'm completely ignorant about. I know that I've been to Illinois and I drove through Michigan on my way to North Bend, which was weird. I didn't expect to be going through 3 states. Not North Bend. What's the Notre Dame place?
South Bend. That's right. That's right where my dad's from. My dad's from Goshen, Indiana. So
Goshen.
That's literally 30 minutes. That's 30 minutes away from South Bend. Go see Mother Mary.
South Bend.
Yeah.
I know it's a
South Bend.
Directional bend. North Bend is
Rangers right there. Yeah.
My buddy and I stayed in Joplin. God, what is wrong with my brain? We stayed in Joliet and took an Uber to South Bend and watched Michael Mayer score a touchdown against my Cal Bears. And
that's so cool.
Caught a Cubs game. It was epic. But we drove through Michigan to get to South Bend, and that tripped my brain out. I was like, why are we doing this? Isn't Michigan up there? And no, it was over there.
Because Indiana has tolls. If you go through, it's cheaper to go through Michigan because then it's a straight shot. So
anybody who wants a Fishbowl invite, go to my Twitter at BigBonedFFB. Go through my posts. I have reposted one of the Fantasy Cares posts they're looking for people to pledge to join live drafts, and that might be your ticket to getting a spot in the Fishbowl, which might carry a little bit more dignity than doing a dance and submitting that to get put in a YouTube race.
I have no pride, Scott. I swear by the moon and the stars and the sky, I'll be there. That's for you, Scott. All right. Waiting for it.
That'll get clipped. But that's how I got in last year, was dancing on also the Fantasy Football Expo coming up. I will be there August 8th through 12th. On this show probably, and I know on another show, I've been saying the 15th for some stupid reason, but I will be there the 8th through the 12th, representing the Undroppables, the Dynasty Pulse at Fantasy Football Plus Network, Player Profiler, and Fantasy Football Advice Network, where Greinberg and I have another show, and is the main sponsor of the expo. So I am excited because I'm going to get to meet people like you and Chuck Bass and Casey Kasem and all of the great people in the Twitter space. I'm going to get to meet everybody at the expo, and it just, all of these good people, it makes me happy to be a part of everything that everybody's doing on Twitter. And hopefully Coop can get out there. There's a lot of people, and keep an ear out for the Undroppables house, because there are going to be shenanigans late at night. I already got my poker ticket. I'm trying to get draft day out or draft night out, whatever it's called. I've been waiting on getting. I want to get into that. I didn't know what division to jump into or anything like that. But I'm gonna.
Well, yeah. I'll do a little plug right now if that's okay with you. Yeah, if you guys haven't, if like Biggs, you guys haven't bought a ticket for Draft Night Out, it's on Saturday for the Expo week. It's so much fun. We have so many divisions. We're going to be putting it together. The IBT team, we took it over last year, and it was such a great success. We just really want to make sure we do it again this year and expand on it. So whatever kind of experience that you're going to with the Expo, we want to make sure that you're accommodated for it. So we got regular divisions with draft boards like we did last year. We got standing room divisions. If you guys want to just do mobile and you want to just be a part of the experience, otherwise there's always like standing room tickets to come out and hang and vibe with everyone and just be a part of everything. So it's a great atmosphere. We got drinks from the brew kettle. So make sure you guys go ahead and buy your tickets. They're now available. Pick your divisions, people. And plus we got Tyler from the forum tonight on IBT. So if you guys are done after this, make sure you guys go ahead, check out IBT. I will be over there in about 45 minutes or so.
You got a flag football team?
I do not. I'm QB1. I'm retired right now. Let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it. Let's talk money. How much you paying for me to come out of retirement?
I don't have money. I just got recruited today to be on the FFAN team. Yeah.
Tyler and I will talk Bills tonight then.
You want to see a 50-year-old man built like a short center out there running routes? I'm your guy.
Dude, I lift ladders all day. I got the forearms of Popeye, man. I'm like, QB1 forever, baby.
I think Hoov just challenged me to an arm wrestle.
I'm 140 pounds wet, but let's do it, baby. All right.
Do you want to like
sting like a bee? Here we go, baby.
Shall we do like an arm wrestling for charity?
Dude, anyone that wants to bet on me, that's like betting on that's like betting on Will Levis going on last year, man. Like go for it. Go for it. That's how you know.
I got grandpa strength, bro.
I got crazy strength. That's what I got. That's my advantage. I'm nuts. Party one. That's what I got going for me.
Crazy is strong. That's where you get the adrenaline. Is like you flip that crazy switch and you're just like, right. All right.
Get the Adam Gay size out.
Hoov, it's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to work with you once again and also to meet you in Canton in August. Tell the folks where they can find your shit.
All right. Well, if you guys want to go ahead and check out me, you guys can go ahead onto Twitter and look up Hoov2 right below. You guys can shoot a follow. But if you're looking for my work at IBT, you guys can go ahead right over there as well. Check out the YouTube channel. I have a great team of awesome hardworking people at IBT. Seth Wilcock, Trash Sandwiches, Scott Rainier, so many awesome, talented people we have over here at IBT. We just hired Smokey Hell NFL to be an awesome entertainment writer for us. So many cool people. So I can't advocate enough for the team and what they're doing. And so come and join the experience. Come join what we got going over here at IBT. So in between media, get
now. You pointed
night out tickets.
You pointed right behind you. Do we have to come to your house? Do we have an address or whatever?
The party's open party every Saturday. Hello, you know what I mean? Party on the roof at the Expo. Party on the roof.
Everybody go to Hoov's. All right. All right. Thank you once again for joining. Thank you, Mike Greinberg. Shout out to all our guys at the Undroppables. Shout out Bradley Stalder at Fantasy Football Plus. Shout out over at Fantasy Football Advice Network. Love you, Tyler. And all you guys watching out there in Fantasy Land, I hope you win. Oh, I got an outro. Here it is.